as you all know, we really jumped into the remote learning model back on March 16th when the schools were closed initially by the governor. And then we started a second phase of enrichment, which was voluntary. And that was changed. We reached an agreement with our teachers, teaching staff that the learning and the enrichment would be no longer be voluntary, but that it would count. And now, this past Friday, Commissioner Riley, on the heels of Governor's announcement to close school through the end of the year, or physically not reopen, but to continue with remote learning, has issued some guidance and some criteria that DESE would like schools by grade level and subject to address. They use the term power standards. We're in receipt of that. That guidance that was released to school districts across the Commonwealth on Friday night. We're unpacking it. We'll be talking about it some more this week with our principals, our coaches, and our teachers. And we look forward to implementing those new standards for the remainder of the school year. So really, in summary, Fitchburg, like almost every school district across the country, we truly are living and learning organizations. We're getting better every day. And how are we doing that? We're trying to listen and learn from our stakeholders' experiences with remote learning. We've been providing more access and more devices, more Chromebooks to our community over the last few weeks. We have also been having our teachers improve their technology skills using the Google Classroom platform. And, we're eventually planning for a re-entry to school. While that may not happen this school year, there will be some type of re-entry next school year. And again, the last bullet here is the build out of the remote learning resources. The state has partnered with a variety of organizations, including WGBH and others, to provide resources for districts, whether you're urban, suburban, rural, or vocational technical. There's a library of resources both at that website and through our website, through the e-learning tab. So really, Fitchburg, like the state, we have some guiding principles as we move forward. Number one, we agree with the governor's decision that the physical closure of our facilities is in the best interest and safety of our students, families, and staff. As we go through this and continue this remote learning model, we're discovering, like a lot of other communities across the country, that we need to work harder and really work better to address the equity, access, and opportunity. So whether it be of technology devices, actually having Wi-Fi, or providing different modes of remote learning. We're working on that and continuing to make that better. And lastly, one of the most important issues that we're working on and focusing on is maintaining connections between the staff, the students, and the families. I think at the last meeting, we talked about connections and engagement. So I think we've done a great job identifying connections. We and a lot of other districts initially were concerned about the students who we weren't able to make a connection with. And now we're working on improving engagement across the district. So the age-old question, or really the question over the last 7 weeks, is what is remote learning? And really remote learning, without reading the slide, is learning that takes place when the student and the teacher are not in the same physical space. There are a few different modes that learning can take place. One is it can take place by a video or audio conference call. It can be enhanced by technology devices, one-to-one video or phone calls, teachers checking in with students. Initially, we provided work packets to our elementary and middle school students. Project-based learning is another mode, reading lists, And as I mentioned earlier, the various online platforms supported by the state or offered by the state and through our own e-learning module can provide lessons for students to engage in. One of our focuses this year, even before the COVID crisis physically closed down our schools, was how our English language learners are receiving education. Our commitment to that group of students has not changed. At the elementary level, we continue to focus on the 4 domains of listening, reading, speaking, and writing. We have made substantial progress over this year. Working with our L students, we will have the access results later this year. And again, at the secondary level, they have relied a little bit more on technology using the Google Classrooms for each standalone ESL class. And again, focusing on the 4 domains of listening, reading, speaking, and writing. Okay, at this point, I'll turn it over to John Thompson, and he'll go over the next few slides.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, great. So I want to begin tonight by talking a little bit about the special education services that teachers and our service providers are giving our students during the closure. So our special education teachers and related service providers are developing individual learning plans that outline the type of remote services that will be provided to each student with an IEP. So what teachers are doing is, in service providers, is they're actually going and looking at IEPs and trying to decide what remote learning tools that they can use to meet students' needs. And they actually have to document that for every student on an IEP in an individual document. So it's a lot of work that these teachers and service providers are involved in right now. In addition, special education services are being provided with collaboration with a general education teacher. And also, if the special education student has really severe services or additional services like OT or special or speech, these services are also being provided remotely that have been set up to address students' really intense needs. So just think about students receiving speech services, that's now happening online. In addition to students receiving OT services, that's now happening online. So these services have been changed to in-person to virtual. So teachers are doing a great job doing that. During this time, we are also running remote and phone IEP meetings for annual reviews and 3-year reevals. When there's testing available. So IEP meetings are still happening during closure. In addition, teachers will continue to connect to families to support the needs and access to our students with disabilities. So our teachers and service providers are reaching out and connecting with families during this time, and also connecting one-on-one to make sure students' needs are being met. And finally, our special education department has and will continue to provide students with alternative means of assessing and learning from home as needed. So there's some students in our district that remote learning doesn't work for. Those might be students in our Pathways program or our guided learning program or other programs in our district. So on an individual basis, alternative methods are being made. Some teachers are mailing home individual work to meet students' needs. So that is happening in some capacity. Next slide. So this evening, I want to talk a little bit about grading for elementary, middle, and high school for the 3rd trimester or 4th quarter, technically the end of the year grades. So at the elementary level, we use a standards-based report card, and we use 2 scales. So on the first scale, for English language, arts, and mathematics, we will be giving students M for meeting standards or P for progressing for the last report card grading period. Or depending on the content area, students will receive S for satisfactory or N needs improvement for the contact area for mathematical practices, science, social studies, health, music, physical ed, media, art, and habits of mind, which is pretty much habits of mind is our behavior and conduct. So during this time, an M for meet standards or an S for satisfactory will be given to students who participated in remote learning and attempted to do assignments on certain standards. And then P for progressing, or N for needs improvement, will be given to students who did not participate in remote learning and did not attempt assignments related to specific standards during the closure. And then finally, any standards that were not addressed this year because of the closure will receive an NA next to it during the last marking term. That's for elementary. For middle school, they're on a traditional marking A, B, C, D, and F grading, so normal letter grading. So students in grades 5 to 8 will be assessed for the final quarter or trimester, depending on what school you go to. You'll be given a credit or a CR for classes, or a non-credit or an NCR for their grade during the semester. So final grades for the year, the average will be calculated using the quarters 1, 2, and 3, or trimesters 1 and 2. And just to review, middle school for our Longsjo and Memorial, they're on quarters, and McKay is on a trimester system. And then finally, the high school. I know a lot of people have been asking about what the high school is going to do for grades, especially with our juniors applying for colleges and our seniors going to colleges in the fall. So the following grade weight scale will be determined for the final grades for the year. So quarter 1 will be 30%, quarter 2 will be 30%, mid-year exam will be 10%, quarter 3 will be 30%, quarter 4 will be 0%. We will not be using any percentage of grading for quarter 4. I'll talk a little bit about that in a second, but we'll be looking at students' positive increased effort based on engagement, and participation, which all that will total up to 100%. So on the transcript, what will be reported this year, the transcript will continue to feature an end of the year numeric grade for quarters 1, 2, and 3 in midterm exams. Each category will continue to feature a numeric grade. For this year, quarter 4 will appear as CR credit or NCR for non-credit. And then how does this impact the GPA of students? Students' GPA will not be negatively affected by quarter 4 other than improve their overall semester or year-long course average. GPA will be calculated using quarters 1, 2, and 3 in midterm participation exams. Quarters 1, 2, and 3 in midterm exams. Students who have an average of 60 based on quarters 1, 2, and 3, or the mid-year exam, and review of their effort, participation, and engagement during quarter 4 will fail the course for the year and may need to complete summer work on Ingenuity or retake a course in the 2020-21 school year. So again, as noted, quarter 4 can have an impact on the overall grade, but only improve it. So again, quarters 1, 2, 3, and the mid-year will be looked at for the final grade. Nothing will count towards quarter 4. It won't negatively impact students. It can only positively impact student, and it will be based on effort, engagement, and participation.
Could I ask a question, John?
Yep.
So my only concern is for the kids who have not been able to participate for whatever reason. It might be that there's somebody in their family is sick, or
that's what I was just going to end with, actually, Jean. So
okay.
All this has to be considered on a case-by-case, student-by-student basis. We don't know what is going on at home for certain students. There may be some food insecurity going on at home. They may be sick. They may have a family member sick. So while we do use these guidelines to grade students for the end of the year, we will also take in effect what's happening at home for students.
Okay.
Okay.
I wouldn't want a kid to miss out on being able to have a positive increase because they just didn't have that opportunity. You know?
No, absolutely. Yep. No. So we know that as teachers and during this situation, we have to be aware of what's happening at home for our students and use that when finally calculating grades for the end of the year.
I have a question.
Yep.
My question is, are we going to be, this is a nice, easy to understand PowerPoint. Are we going to be getting this out to the public through the social media, different options, so that there won't be any question as to, oh, well, here's how these grades are arrived at, and here's why you need to really be as technically involved as you can, so you can improve your grades.
Yeah, so we will post this on our social media pages. In addition, teachers will be emailing the information out to families to let them know, and we'll make sure we are communicating this to all our stakeholders in the community.
Great, thank you.
Yep. So the last slide that I have this evening talks a little bit about remote learning, beginning now this week and ending in June, on June 17th, the last day of school. So as Bob stated, late Friday night, we received the new remote learning plans for the state. And overall, the plans do remain consistent. But what they did was they really improved some of the elements, and specifically element number 2 on this slide about prerequisite content standards. So again, I'll just go over each one of them 1 through 4. So the elements for remote learning that the DSE has outlined is number 1, prioritize meaningful connections with educators and peers. So we need to make sure that we are connecting to students, we are connecting to families, either virtually or by phone, making sure that's happening, making sure that students are collaborating with one another on Google Hangouts or Google Meets, making sure that's happening. Number 2, this is the change or the update that the state did provide. They said provide engaged core instruction focused on the prerequisite content standards that are most critical for student success in the next grade level. So the second part of this sentence, the prerequisite content standards. So what the state did on Friday was they released standards for English language arts, math, science, and social studies for each grade, K to 12, based on the Mass DESE standards. And they, for each grade level, they highlighted the most critical, important standards for students to know to move on to the next grade level, or to know for that grade level. So right now what we're doing is we are looking at those content standards and kind of reshaping how we deliver instruction based on those content standards. And we'll be providing from now until the end of the year, June 17th, enrichment, or actually remote learning opportunities that are geared towards those state standards that were outlined. So this week we are meeting with principals, our instructional coaches, in addition to teachers, to review the state's updated plan and to really review the standards to make sure all our teachers and coaches and principals understand the standards that are set forth from now until the end of the year for students. Number 3, offer opportunities for enrichment, exercise, and play. So we are doing that already. So we don't want this remote learning experience just to be Chromebook or tablet or Google Classroom. We want to make sure we're providing other experiences for students to maybe go outside and do some exercise or calisthenics. In addition, maybe to do some baking or some other scavenger hunt activities or something unique other than just online learning. So we have those opportunities are embedded in our Google Classrooms for students. So we have that element already implemented in the district. And then finally, number 4, ensure programming is accessible and secure and communication is streamlined for students and their families. So making sure that any platforms that we use, we're making sure that students' privacy rights are in mind. In addition to making sure that we're communicating with students and families effectively, whether in English or Spanish or any other language that they speak. And now I'd like to hand it over to Adam Renda.
John, before Adam begins, I just want to talk about the second bullet point there. in terms of these power standards, what Desi is asking us to teach, really the prerequisite so students will be more successful in the next grade. Last Tuesday, when Commissioner Riley spoke to all the superintendents prior to the governor's announcement, he did indicate that although this year's MCAS was waived, they received waivers from the federal government, they plan to return to the standard accountability schedule for grades next year. So, the more we can do now to have our students be ready for next year, the better off we'll be next year. So.
Hey, good evening. So, Mr. Thompson commented on many of the points that I'll be discussing with you tonight, but we've been doing this for about a month. Our teachers and students and administration have done an amazing job to get this up and running, but it's time to start improving what we're doing. And after the guidance from the state, we can really start to refine how we're engaging our students. In order to do that and to meet all of their needs, we need data to figure out what is working and what is not. So we will be collecting information to understand each student's level of engagement in remote learning. Teachers are using Google Classrooms to do that. They're usually using individual meetings and phone calls with students and families about why people are engaged and they're not. While I'm sitting here during school committee, I have a teacher in one of the elementary schools texting me because she's frustrated, talking about how she had a great conversation with the family this morning about the level of engagement of their child, and they made a lot of promises about what was going to happen today, and none of that work got done, right? But that's still some really good information that she was able to pass along to me. I can have a conversation with this family to see how we can remove some of those barriers. But we're doing things like engaging in focus groups with teachers. We're meeting with the district improvement team, which includes all of the principals, at least twice a week. I know John's meeting with coaches and other people at the school level. And we're really getting a good idea of what is working and what is not. So Google Meets is a really good platform for engaging students. So it gives that face-to-face virtual meeting, very similar to what we're using tonight in Zoom. We know that the online interventions have a higher percentage of use. So those are things like Zern, Khan Academy, the iReady platform that we're using now. So those are really working. And then we also need to get information from our teachers and our parents and our students. And the main way we're going to do that is through survey. So we will survey parents and students and teachers a little bit down the road. And we're going to ask some questions on communications, on what supports they need and what supports are working. What resources do they have? What resources can we help provide? And really, I think one of the things that we really need to start asking about is self-care. And this is both for parents, students, and teachers when we get to that survey. What are people doing to take care of themselves? This is a very stressful time. It can be really difficult to engage in, participate in schoolwork if you're really worried about what's going on with this pandemic. So those surveys are created. They should be going out this week, and hopefully it will provide the data we need to refine our remote learning. And I think...
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
So I just want to provide a brief update to the school committee and the community in general in regards to our graduation plans. Right now, we have not finalized any plans. I happened to sit in on a conference call or Zoom, Google Hangout today that Principal Roach led with students from Fitchburg High School. And they're looking at a few different options right now. And at the conclusion of that meeting, it was agreed that a decision would be made. Well, here it says on the slide by May 4th. It may be made actually the day after May 4th in terms of, do we try to have some type of on-site graduation or graduation utilizing Crocker Field, observing whatever social distancing requirements remain in effect at the time of graduation. there was discussion about a virtual option. I guess I can tell you that, there was a reluctance to pursue that. But the students and the leadership at the high school are being very thoughtful in terms of making sure that our graduates have a special graduation and one that everyone will remember. I think we have one more slide, and I think Craig you'll bring us home on that one.
Yep, thanks, Bob. Just a quick update for the pandemic EBT program, and it's part of the federal relief monies and partnership between the Department of Transitional Assistance and the Department of Education, and it provides families with resources who are eligible for free or reduced lunch. I believe it's $5.70 per day per student. The nice thing for us in the city of Fitchburg, where we are a community eligible program, all of our families would qualify for support under this program. So I know that Ms. Spinney and Dave Smens has been working to get all the information uploaded to the Department of Education with our updated enrollment lists. And families should be receiving letters. They just said at the beginning of May, so they should be coming out soon. And this will be provided for families who currently have EBT cards. This is an amount that will be added to their current accounts. And then for families who don't, they will be receiving an EBT card that would provide them the opportunity to purchase food in any store that currently accepts the SNAP benefits. So it's a great resource for families. I know that here on the bottom of the slide, there is a link to the Project Bread for some additional information. There's also additional information, some frequently asked questions on the MassGov website. If you just Google pandemic EBT for Massachusetts, it has a list of resources there. But again, just to remind families that this is not for just folks who currently have EBT cards. This is available to 100% of our families in the city of Fitchburg. So it's a great resource for folks to look into. Again, if should be receiving hopefully a letter soon. And if not, check in with us, and or you could go to the link for Project Bread. There's a hotline, there's numbers to call for additional information as well.